Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another edition of the Bills Roundtable, live Monday and Thursday at about 4:15, 4:30-ish. All right? Just make sure you have those bell notifications turned on, and you'll always know when we're live. Today's episode, we are going to be previewing and predicting the Buffalo Bills and Miami Dolphins matchup. We all know what happened last time. This Dolphins team looks marginally different, especially after shipping Jaylen Phillips off just a couple of days ago before the trade deadline. Very excited to get into it. Kevin, what's going on, man?
Nothing, man. Just rebounding from that tire fire was at the trade deadline in terms of just takes and theories and thoughts and firings. And it was a tough one to actually see how aggressive Brandon Beane is. And when he's not, like kind of how people remember, like that's not the norm. So like Howie Roseman is the most aggressive, and then you have everybody else, and then like Brandon Beane is literally next on the list based on trades, active deals, signings, money spent. Like it's Brandon Beane. So it's tough to see him not make a move. You don't really know if he was taking it down to the wire with his AFC East opponents trying to trade players. But guys, they have a Dolphins game. I think their roster is in pretty good shape, minus the Michael Hoyt and Ed Oliver injuries. They have a really good defensive line. And ultimately, if they can get over this midseason hump with some of these dinged up players, I do believe he thinks his roster is built differently than years past. And I think the way that they beat the Chiefs showed it. Like that, they generally beat the Chiefs, but not necessarily with their defensive line.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, I totally forgot that the trade deadline was this previous Tuesday, and we haven't even discussed that. So we'll obviously open up the show with this. But first off, Z-Bot, what's going on with you?
What's happening, fellas? Feeling good. Obviously, still a couple days removed, or actually now we're into Thursday, so I can't be hanging out my hat on the Chiefs win any longer than I already have. But it's nice to know that the follow up to that is against the Miami Dolphins, where Josh Allen's 14-2, including the playoffs, on the road in a spot where the Bills fans travel better than they travel to anywhere else, and the Bills are currently a 9.5-point favorite in that football game. So, in good position. I've been looking forward to this weekend really since the end of last weekend, because I do think it's very pivotal for the AFC East. You have a very winnable game for Buffalo. I mean, hell, you're almost a double-digit favorite on the road. It doesn't get more favorable than that. And then you have one of the lone remaining games on the Patriots schedule that feels as though you could comfortably predict them to potentially lose. They have two remaining games against teams with winning records. This is one of them against Tampa Bay, coming off of a bye. So I do feel like Sunday is a massive AFC East swinging game. If New England wins that game, whether the Bills win or lose this upcoming weekend, I can't lie. It does feel awfully difficult to feel as though the Bills are going to be able to surpass New England. As we know, though, the other remaining game the Patriots have against a winning team is the Buffalo Bills. So that game is going to be big regardless. But, man, if New England wins on Sunday, that game becomes almost like a playoff game in a few weeks from now or a month or so from now. So big weekend coming up here, fellas.
Big one indeed. And just based off of the intro portion of this show, I have gathered yet another topic we're going to have to cover, and that's a Patriots and Buccaneers analysis, man, because damn, Baker, we need you, man. Todd Bowles, we need you. All right, so the elephant in the room was the trade deadline. And like every single trade deadline, is going to be super polarizing. Like you scroll through Twitter, especially for like the first hour and a half after it was all said and done, people were having a meltdown. They were very upset about all of it. And one thing I will say is that would I have loved for Beane to go out and drop a bunch of picks for Garrett Wilson? Once I saw Sauce go, I was like, oh, yeah, everyone's got a price over in New York. Yes, I would have been thrilled, right? I would have been thrilled if Jaylen Waddle were to be a Buffalo Bill. I would have been thrilled if Chris Olave was a Buffalo Bill. I wasn't mad that we didn't outbid the Seahawks for Rashid Shaheed, if we even made a call on him. I wasn't mad that we didn't outbid Jacoby Myers from the Jacksonville Jaguars. For me, those two were just guys, not dudes, like we said this previous Monday. I didn't think either of those guys were to move the needle for this Buffalo Bills organization. And based off of his press conference, sounds like he tried. Sounds like he tried to go on ahead and talk to these AFC East teams, but they were unwilling to do any business with us. Some people were upset we didn't hear any rumors that he was going after a depth defensive tackle, right? Some people were upset that he wasn't going after some additions that could per se help us with some of the injuries we just sustained. I'm sort of at the belief right now where I feel like it is what it is. We currently have a roster, in my opinion. I think we have no excuse not to be a championship team. Like, you have top 2 offensive line, you have an MVP quarterback, you have the second best running back in the NFL where it stands, and statistically, advanced metrics speaking, you have the best tight end in the NFL with Dalton Kincaid. That should be enough. That should be enough to win a damn championship. So, can they execute? That's the question. Anyway, Z-Bot, thoughts now that the dust has settled from the trade deadline?
Yeah, I agree with a lot of what you just said there. So, I didn't think that they were going to be overly active going into this trade deadline based on the salary cap situation, and then just based on the fact that I didn't think there were a ton of positional groups of need to go out and make a move. I had also said that I didn't want Brandon Beane to go and make a move just for the sake of making one, just to check a box and be able to say, oh, we did this, so technically I was active. I'll give him credit there for not just bringing in a guy just to do it. Now, it did seem like he was active. He certainly was working the phones. He certainly was in on trying to get stuff done. It felt like we were left at the altar, perhaps, with a couple of wide receivers. There was a big rumor, of course, floating around about Deebo Samuel. That didn't come to fruition. They didn't wind up trading him at all. The 2 names, Jacoby Myers and Rashid Shaheed, right? Those were the 2 names that were mentioned frequently pre-trade deadline that could potentially be linked to the Bills. I wouldn't have minded if Brandon Beane were to have outbid maybe the Seahawks on that 4th and a 5th they give up for Shaheed. You give up a 3rd for Amari Cooper, towards the end of his career a season ago. I wouldn't have minded if they would have done that. I would have been satisfied with that. But clearly, Beane wasn't willing to do that. And you mentioned it, Dan, right? Didn't want to overspend where he thought it wasn't worth it. And so he didn't. It was abundantly clear, though, that he tried to work with both the Jets and the Dolphins at this trade deadline, and they were not willing to work with him. As dysfunctional as the Jets are and the Dolphins are, I got to tip my cap to them for not moving anybody to Buffalo. I don't see a world, at least if I'm the GM of either of those teams, where I could possibly convince myself, no matter what the compensation was, to give an asset to the team that has been the class of the division for a while. And not only that, but if I'm the Dolphins, if we're talking about Jaylen Waddle, for instance, I mean, Garrett Wilson, you would have had to have really stepped up to the plate to have gotten that done. Waddle, I feel like it would have been slightly less. But in the Dolphins case, like, this team has dominated you. Could you imagine back in the day, the Bills giving, you look at it too, like the Bills gave Stephon Gilmore to the Patriots, and look how that wound up working out for New England, where they got the best years out of them, right? Like, if you look at Buffalo and Miami and what the Bills have done to them, I just don't possibly see how you could come back from giving them an asset like Jaylen Waddle. Whether it works out or not, you're looking at a much less situation from the AFC North, where the Browns give Joe Flacco to the Bengals. They should arguably be undefeated since they've acquired him. He scored 38 points against the Jets. He scored 42 points against the Bears. They lost both those games. It was just absolutely incomprehensible to me why the Browns gave him up to the Bengals. So I understand why these teams did not work with Brandon Beane within the division. Here's the reality, though. The majority of the top teams in the NFL stayed put at the trade deadline. The majority of these teams did not make a move. I'll give credit to Indianapolis. They went all in. How risky was that, though? Because, if Daniel Jones winds up coming back down towards the mean, you just gave up 2 first-round picks and a young wide receiver for a corner there. That was a massive, massive gamble. I'll give them credit for doing it. And then Seattle, I think right now has an argument to be a top 3 team in the NFL the way they've been playing. So I'll give them credit for adding too. But outside of that, you're looking at the top teams around the league. Kansas City didn't make a move. Baltimore should probably be in the mix when it's all said and done with Lamar back. They didn't make a move. So I feel like the silver lining here is I don't look at the Bills' top competitors in this conference as teams that got better at the trade deadline, as the Bills didn't either. So, as you said, this team has the makings of a championship team. If they play like they did on Sunday, that's a team that can win the Super Bowl with who they currently have. And I think the reality also here, fellas, is there probably wasn't a guy Bean could have acquired unless he did something crazy that was going to dramatically alter this team at this given time. So with that, I don't think Brandon Bean just sat around waiting for 4:00 to hit. I feel like he was trying to get stuff done, but at the end of the day, nothing felt worth it enough to kind of overextend his hand. So he didn't.
And so I hate to assume too, because say that the Jets and or the Dolphins were even remotely entertaining it, it was probably like 2 firsts and not a Curtis Samuel or like an Elijah Moore. Like they were probably looking for like one of our defensive studs, for example. Like Miami was probably looking for like a stud, like something crazy. So Kev, thoughts on this? The dust is settled. What do you got?
I mean, it comes down to how much better is Rashid Shaheed, who is a hitch and go receiver. 48% of the time he runs hitch and goes. That is his route tree. Like everyone says, well, you can do other things. I've seen him run slants. Sure. I mean, every receiver in the league can do other things. He's a hitch and a go receiver in a West Coast offense. Like we don't run that style of football. We are already finding film of like, we don't use Curtis Samuel when he's open. We haven't used Elijah Moore when he's open.
Yeah.
Like we're robbing Peter to pay Paul, like just moving the jerseys around. Like, is Shaheed better than those two? Probably marginally, but like we're moving things around. We only have 6 draft picks next year, and we were going to trade 2 of them possibly, and now we're going to have 4 left. And we think the guy we complain about who can't hit draft picks, now he's only got 4 chances. We think we're going to be happy with that come draft April next year? Absolutely not. Like, I was in the camp of actually not loving the Cooper trade, believe it or not. I thought it was an overpay. I didn't like his advanced metrics. I said it at the time, even before they decided on which receiver. I thought Adams would have been a much better addition, and he was so obsessed with Rodgers that couldn't get done. But ultimately, like the metrics weren't there, and that I really wanted that 3rd round pick this year. I think that could have been a player we added to this roster, maybe at the safety position. It could have been anywhere. These guys that we're complaining about if we had an additional 3. So ultimately, I'm not going to get on them for trading for a guy that I think is the same as Curtis Samuel, like a step better, like a slight step better. How much does that cost? I don't know. I really thought they could have gone D-line, though. I heard some rumblings they were in on some defensive linemen. I thought they took it to the limit. Like, you don't know how close these things were. It could have even been Von Miller. It could have been a case where the Bills were like, look, we're putting our feet in and we're only going to trade a 5th. Like, that is it. Like, that is where we're going to go with this thing. We're going to move our 5th round pick. And then maybe just Washington was like, we're going to hold our guys, like whatever. Like we'd rather have these guys and get the 5th. I don't think that's a great move for expiring contracts, but that's maybe a move that the Bills were looking to do. And outside of that kind of level, it was either that or high. I don't think there was some ground where they weren't willing to tap into the 2nd through 4th round picks. It was like, I'm going for Jaylen Waddle, who makes a lot of sense with the cap with play style. Like I'm leaning Miami is who they were working with personally. But it absolutely could have been the Jets knowing what they did, but they were too busy doing other stuff. I think we were on the phone with Miami as well. So ultimately you couldn't get him to trade the player. It doesn't look good. And if you weren't going to get a guy that is receiver 1, I do not need more receiver 3s and 4s, no matter what you think of Shaheed, he's a receiver 3. I don't care what you say. Like most metrics would back that up. He's had a solid year. He's missed games. He's missed like 17 games in his first 3 years. Ultimately, I'm not going to dog him for taking a guy I think that they could use on their roster when you have Palmer coming back and you have 2 other guys that are similarly there. Receiver 1 or high-end defensive lineman, or I don't think it helps the roster.
Yeah. So that's sort of what I was thinking too. Now, since we obviously didn't get the vertical guy, I dug a little deeper. And Zbot, a quick trivia question. If you could guess who has the most vertical routes ran this year out of everybody in the receiving room, who is it?
Keon Coleman.
It's Keon Coleman.
Yeah, that would be my guess as well. How many of those have been
makes
completed?
Zero sense, right?
That'd be
that
my
makes
question.
0 sense, right? The slowest guy on our team is the one that is running the vertical routes on the perimeter.
That's what they do, though, Dan, with Gabe Davis, too. That's just what they do. They like these contested catch deep guys.
Yeah.
They don't need raw 4.32 speed. That further proves they wouldn't have used Shaheed as much as we wanted.
Yeah. So my question here is, right now, like you have Elijah Moore with 19 go routes, and you have Curtis Samuel with 8. Okay. Is there a world where Brady says, hey, you know what? Like maybe I might try to increase those attempts out on the outside for these guys, because I could get like, hey, like you want to have someone running this go so you could take the top off of the defense and do that whole thing. Nobody's scared of Keon Coleman on a go route. All right. at least put somebody that has that sort of speed on the outside to do it. Is that something we see, or is that just what Buffalo is going to continue to do? Keon and the go guy.
Well, you haven't seen it a ton the last couple of games. I mean, you saw it before the bye for sure. I can't really think of many times in which it has worked. I got to be honest with you. I'm ready to see Gabe Davis be put on the roster here and get implemented in the offense. I am. I mean, I understand you move off of him. But when you moved off of him, this was a guy that you didn't want to overspend on, but you had enough success with to where Jacksonville clearly and blatantly overspent on him, right? I mean, he did have success with Buffalo, and he also had success with Buffalo in big moments too. I just feel like there might be something there. I'm not saying it's going to come and turn this offense into, the greatest show on turf, but I do think that there's something there that might not be there right now, and you would at least have to see what that is. So when he's healthy and ready to go, I'm looking forward to that. And then also, needing Joshua Palmer to get healthy again. I know it wasn't prolific at all prior to the Falcons game, but in that game, you saw what could potentially be when he's healthy. They went to him deep right before he got hurt. And I do think that could be a way to stretch the field as well. I do. Now, they've shown you that they have the ability to move the ball efficiently when you combine the run game with the intermediate passing game. What I liked so much, though, about the past game against the Chiefs was their willingness to go beyond the sticks and throw the football. Josh Allen had multiple throws down the field that wound up working out really, really well. And I like that they weren't those go routes that you're referring to where it was one-on-one with the receiver and you just throw it deep and hope somebody comes up with it. They were well schemed. I go to the one that went to Dawson Knox. He could have had his pick of the litter there. He had Jackson Hawes wide open on that play as well. It was perfectly schemed, and it was because of the Chiefs having to respect the run game. It was on play action. Everybody bit to the right side. You had the options there. You also looked at the throw to Elijah Moore going down the left side. It was one of the more riskier throws I feel like Allen's taken as of late. He's been very risk adverse, but there needs to be more risk added into it. And I don't blame him for wanting to scale that back. He won an MVP by really eliminating a lot of risk in his game. But I've felt as of late, we do need to see a bit more of that. And I think we saw that against Kansas City. So I don't necessarily think that this team needs to launch the football like some other teams do, or maybe like they did in the past. But I do need to see a lot more, or at least consistently what we saw on Sunday. If you can get 4 or 5 plays where you're getting 25 to 35 yards through the air, I mean, you really can't ask for much more, especially with as efficient as they've been in the short pass game. My biggest problem with the short passing has been that it hasn't culminated into those moments like we saw on Sunday. But if it can, in addition to the run game, then I think that they're in a good spot. And then the one last thing I'll say in terms of the passing game here, going back and watching the film on that, Allen, really, it was so noticeable, the difference between the games prior to the Chiefs game and the Chiefs game. His willingness to stay in the pocket, allow routes to develop, and then the accuracy. All those things came together, and that's why he had as great of a day as he did. I find that things do end up opening up when Allen allows that top-tier offensive line time to allow things to open up. It's very rare that Allen needs to bail out of the pocket because he's immediately under siege, and that was the case on Sunday, except the difference was he allowed himself to stay in the pocket and allowed those things to develop. And I feel like it's no secret as to why he was 23 of 26 in that football game, because things were able to develop. So if we can see more what we saw on Sunday, fellas, I mean, as we mentioned, maybe we're not even talking about not adding to this receiver room at the trade deadline, because I do think that there's things there. And if executed upon, you see what the result is.
So what do you got on that, Kev?
I think like when you see these, everyone's like, well, if we have a deep route, we can clear stuff. We are. Like, I'm watching film. We see Curtis Samuel open up. Like, how much better would another player been than that is my argument. Like, Curtis Samuel did an awesome job, actually. And I'm a Curtis Samuel hater. But he did an awesome job of clearing out for Hawes, for, intermediary for Shakir, for Kincaid. Like, he is doing that. Like, literally can give you film that shows you that he is doing that effectively for his players, especially last week. I think they made a change for it from the bye. And like you mentioned, Keon Coleman was the one running those vertical routes because that's like, I think what Josh Allen prefers. Like, honestly, like people aren't, offensive coordinators aren't dumb. Like, what quarterbacks, you ask your quarterback, who do you want in this routes tree? He is the one saying Gabe Davis. He's the one saying Keon Coleman. He likes that style of receiver for some reason down the field. Like, he doesn't necessarily hook up with the Deontay Hardys. Shaquille's a little better version of that, obviously. They have more, and I don't even know how close they were to a fast receiver like that. They have more and Samuel on the team. I can't sit here and say they would have acquired a third similar style of receiver. It's hard for me to get my head around. It had to have been a premier receiver to me or a defensive line. That's kind of where I'm leaning, or a gadget guy. What really would have pissed people off was Deebo Samuel. I think that Bean could have read Twitter and was like, nah, I'm not dealing with that. Like, as I'm kind of joking, but like, am I? Like, he might have read certain things and was like, no one likes this move. Like, why am I going to go and trade an asset? Like, I don't think he would ever make a dictation based on what people are saying, but ultimately, you never know how GMs think when these things leak for a reason. And you're like, no one likes this. I'm going to get ruled for this. I might as well keep my pick. Like, I thought Deebo Samuel would have been good in this offense. I'm sorry. Who doesn't want two Khalil Shakirs? Like, it does stress defenses horizontally, Dan. And like, I have such a problem that saying like only the deep threat guy. They have a couple of guys that Josh Allen doesn't see right now. And if he wants to start using Gabe Davis, it could be as soon as this week.
So let me ask you this. So would you prefer your wide receiving core to be top 5 in separation or top 5 in yak?
Yak.
I'm a yak guy, but Twitter won't agree.
Oh, trust me. And so I tweeted it this morning and a lot of people were upset about it. But like,
they want whatever they don't have, Dan. So the answer is the reverse, what the Bills don't have. So if you would have said separation, let's say we had separation receivers and no one was getting rack like 2 years ago. Yeah, they would say, what do you mean? Of course I want a guy like Deebo Samuel. We don't have any rack.
Yeah. No. Like it's wild, man. It's funny too, because like based off of where Buffalo has been through 8 weeks in 2024 and then 8 weeks in this year, it's actually been less yak. So it's kind of been at least a yak problem for the beginning, or like we're not getting as many good opportunities. Maybe that has to do with attempts. I don't know. But I'm not so sure that it is separation, right? Anyway, we have the Buffalo Bills facing off against them damn Miami Dolphins. And I got to tell you like something, like maybe it's just me being like a Miami Dolphins hater, but with them firing their GM, I thought that they were literally going to go on a fire sale. I didn't think that they were in any position to be cheap and to be like, oh, no, I'm demanding a second. I'm not taking a fourth for this guy, or I'm demanding this. You would have thought that they probably would have went a bit more aggressive on the selling side of things to set their new GM up with a lottery of picks. I suppose I see it from the other perspective where maybe like they kind of want him to make all the decisions. Exactly. Like maybe they think Waddle is the dude or something like that. And maybe that's it. But yeah, dude, I mean, really outside of Jaylen Phillips, I thought Chubb was going to be gone. I thought Minka was going to be gone. I thought Waddle was going to go somewhere. I mean, thoughts on that? Did that shock you? Start off with Kevin.
Yeah, it did. But ultimately, I think Stephen Ross probably put a kibosh on it and saying, we want to give the next GM all those options, even if maybe we could have gotten a tad more today at the trade deadline. But like you said, they weren't going to willing to take those 4th round picks because they would rather give the players, give the whole package to the new GM and say, trade Jaylen Waddle, trade, whoever's not any expiring deal they should have dealt though. So anyone on there on an expiring deal should have been dealt. But you still maybe want to give the new GM the option to make their roster and pick from the players they have, and thinking that maybe a little bit easier to build that way because you got some huge decisions on Waddle and Tua. So like they already have some big enough decision on the guys that are already signed. So maybe you let the new GM. That's all that I can think of why they didn't fire sale further. Of like, if we're not going to get top 1 or 2s, like we're going to let the next guy. We're going to give him the whole package, and maybe even with Mike McDaniel, and say, go ahead and make your decision here. And these GMs that are in these like interim roles, they don't make deals. Like that was the perfect storm of the Jets to where I guess they feel safe with their coach and GM combo still because he's letting them make those kind of deals. I guess there's a lot of picks there for a new GM if they want to continue to make deals moves every year, but they felt safe to make like really aggressive moves. And sometimes you can actually tell when somebody's going to stay. Like you're not giving Brian Dable an ability to go buy and sell. I'm sorry. He doesn't get that opportunity to go buy any players or sell any players. He is what it is. They're going to make their determinations on the Giants. And I feel like the same thing with the Dolphins are very similar to where they weren't able to really do much. They got a good deal on Phillips other than that, because he was an expiring deal. Other than that, I think that they're going to let the new guy make the decision on all their players. And that roster is a mess. It's a defensive nightmare as we get into the game plan. But ultimately, I don't think the Bills can take it to the level where they're going to sit every single player out in the sun. That's going to be in the upper 80s. Like, I would like them to take it as a division game because, as Z-Bot mentioned earlier, there is a chase going on this year, other than maybe some years there's not. But this year there's a chase going on. You cannot drop a division game. And ultimately, like, you would lose the tiebreaker instantly. So ultimately, I do want them to play this like it's an important game and not like the Dolphins stink, because Tua can get you, I guess. The Mike McDaniel's good enough offensive coach to limit a game and win a football game here against somebody, and it's not going to be the Bills, though.
All right. Well, speaking of that, let's go on ahead and get into the preview. Now, do keep in mind that we had a couple of players that did not participate yesterday. A lot of those guys are limited, including James Cook, including Daquan Jones.
Right? Who said he was going to play, by the way? James Cook has said he's going to play.
Okay, perfect. That's a piece of news I didn't hear. Happy to hear it. We have Josh Palmer was limited for the second day in a row, too, so perhaps we're getting that. Z-Bot, thoughts and game plan against this Miami Dolphins team to ensure a victory?
Every aspect of the Buffalo Bills team, for the most part, is superior to that of the Miami Dolphins here in a drastic way. I mean, there's some metrics, especially on the Dolphins' defensive side of things, that are quite literally the worst in the NFL. I mean, they're terrible at getting after the quarterback. They're terrible against the pass. The short passing game, which the Bills are prolific at, the Dolphins are second to last in the NFL against that. So really, I mean, the Bills offense should have the ability to continue building the momentum that they started to build in that Carolina Panthers game, right? I mean, I really do think you have the opportunity to go in here and do really whatever you want. James Cook, the one thing there I would say is, if we're talking about, and Kevin's right, you need to play this game to win. Not to say that they won't, but you don't want to go in here with guys that could play not playing just because you assume you're going to win the football game. James Cook's the one guy, though, that I think could really dominate in this football game. But maybe if he does, and they're clearly in the driver's seat towards a win, you limit his reps. I mean, we're talking about him getting 20-plus carries nearly every single game as of late. Maybe that's one area where, if they are noticeably going to walk away with the victory, maybe you see more Ray Davis and Ty Johnson in this football game than you would otherwise. But the Buffalo Bills have every advantage you could possibly imagine on the offensive side of the ball compared to what this defense is doing against those subsets, whether it be short passing, getting after the quarterback, stopping the run. The Dolphins are pretty much abysmal in all of those categories. And then you look at the Bills' defensive side of things. The Dolphins offense has been struggling beyond what you would expect from this type of offense. The one thing that the Dolphins have been pretty decent and consistent with Tua and Mike McDaniel is their ability to move the football. They haven't been able to win big football games, but the one thing they're known for would be their offense, and that has clearly fallen off of a cliff as well. Or you could say a hill, no pun intended here, maybe pun intended, because without Tyreek Hill, this team's offense just becomes different. Their offense is so noticeably predicated on the ability for Tyreek Hill to kill you, not only in the short game, but deep as well. And without him, they've just been noticeably worse, and they weren't great with him this year to begin with. The only thing I always look at against the Dolphins that I think is their advantage is Devon Achane. He's one of the best running backs in the NFL. I think he might be the most underrated running back in the NFL. You're looking at fantasy numbers. He's a number 3 running back in fantasy football, yet you don't really hear him talked about when you hear the mentions of Derrick Henry and Jonathan Taylor, as of late, of course, James Cook. He doesn't get thrown around as much as I feel like he should, and he does have success against Buffalo almost every time that they play. If there's one thing I look at in this game, and I even said this to you, Dan, when we were at the game on Thursday Night Football in the first matchup between these teams, the one thing I look at in this matchup almost always is Devon Achane. I have noticed, though, Mike McDaniel doesn't go to him nearly enough. They do not utilize him nearly enough. I don't know why, because not only is he really good on the ground, he's really damn good in the pass game too. They just don't utilize him enough, and I really don't understand it. There's been games against Buffalo where they've been in the game and they just stop going to him, and it's working, and they just go away from it. And then once you start having Tua throw the ball more, well, we know the result of that more often than not. So looking at this game, to put a bow on it, fellas, for the Bills to lose this game, they'd have to beat themselves, really. I mean, the Bills are just better in nearly every category. For them to lose, I would have to think Josh Allen has multiple turnovers and they're just completely stalling out on offense, and the defense just has a complete reversal towards the bottom of what they've been showing us the last couple of weeks. If the Bills go out and play really even half of what they were able to put out on display against the Chiefs on Sunday, I think the Bills win yet another game against these Miami Dolphins.
So what do you got, Kev? Talk to us.
Yeah, Achane is to answer Zebot's question, he's somebody that's not utilized nearly enough. He has a negative EPA. Like, ultimately, Ollie Gordon has better numbers. So it's crazy. It's really weird how they're using him, although he has the fantasy stats. Even his production when it matters and in situations that are above expectation isn't good. So for whatever reason, if that's game planning, if that's coaching, I'm not 100%, don't really have the time to break down Mike McDaniel's offensive scheme all the time, especially when they're missing Hill. But that team is totally different with Tyreek Hill in the lineup. I mean, he presents the challenge that everybody's saying the Bills need of that deep threat, that deep speed, the deep intermediate routes, a guy that I guess what the people are, to our last segment talking about for trading for. So he presents all that with him off the field. They've always had issues behind those two guys. Like, you're talking about two Washingtons, one fumbled. They have a bunch of receiver issues. In my opinion, they always have, minus the top two guys who are elite. And then they don't have anything. They never been able to fill in when those guys are out. Not many teams can, but that's definitely, when it's your strength of your team, it's a major issue. Their O-line's had issues for years, guys in and out of the lineup. They can't cover anybody. They're 28th in defensive EPA, 27th in offensive EPA, excuse me. And now they're missing, they're not going to be with Chop Robinson, or in my opinion, two of their four best defensive players in Chop Robinson and in Rasul Douglas, who's actually playing a really good season. I thought he could get
not
traded.
to mention Jaylen Phillips getting traded as well, Kevin, right? I mean, this is a D that's just getting even worse, and they've already been bad.
They're all
it's really bad.
Is Sealer and Chubb.
So he actually accounted for 30% of their total pressures this year. He's gone, and even with
no
him,
Chop either,
and no Chop. Oh yeah. They
have one pass.
Like, with Josh Allen is going to be able to make a sandwich and then find the open man.
For real.
The ghost of Matt Judon's there, and they don't play him. I mean, it just can't be a game you drop because you go in saying we can rest Benford, we can rest Cook, we can rest Bernard, we can rest Daquan Jones. Let's wait on Palmer. At some point it starts to even a little bit, even though you should still win. It still does even at some point when now you're talking Ray Davis. Now you're talking about, still utilizing your back end of your receiving depth. You're still talking about a couple of those other mismatches. At least they'll have their D line without Epinesa. So now you're talking about Solomon and Landon Jackson getting a ton of reps. And that's behind Bosa and Rousseau. And the D tackles are already, obviously, if Daquan Jones sits, now you're still talking about, Deion Walker only there, really, and Larry Ogunjobi. So at some point it will even out if you determine that you're not going to play anybody. It's a division game. I need them to take it seriously, even with Tampa on the fold. And Tampa is a mess with their injuries. They're going to go into this New England game without Chris Godwin again and Bucky Phillips. So, at some point,
damn well Bucky Irvin will be healthy for that Bills game. That's for sure. I mean, I can't
believe he will. He will.
Yeah. Even without him, though, White's filled in really well. But I mean, they can still run the football. But they are decimated right now. Tons of injuries. Yeah,
and obviously Evans. So this isn't
the. They're going to be fully healthy when Buffalo comes up too.
Evans will come off of IR. Even
dude.
Will come in and Baker will deal. That's just what'll happen.
Yeah.
Or how big of a game is this for Tampa? I don't know. They probably feel like they have their division in hand now, if I'm being honest. They probably don't buy Carolina. They definitely don't buy the Saints. They're done. And they are not buying anything with Atlanta.
Yeah.
But they are in the mix of the 1 seed.
That's true.
Noticeable. Yeah. I mean, that NFC 1 seed race right now is just as crazy as it is in the AFC. 100%. I mean, there's 5 teams right now in the NFC with 2 losses. But that's the difference between us where we normally are, and we can go, we're resting Cook this game like we did against the Jets. We really feel like we're 2-3 games up, even with a loss to an AFC team in their case, or an NFC team in our case, is what it is. Unique spot for the Bills right now, right? With this chasing of the Patriots.
I think you gotta play full go. You can't rest players in this game. I'm sorry. I'd love to. I don't think they do not have the luxury to do that in November right now.
Yeah. For me, so especially with Jaylen Phillips being out, there's no excuse. As far as all the statistics, or like as far as all the pressures and the sacks that Josh Allen has taken, like so far this year, 11 of those were his fault, right? By leaving the pocket far too early.
It's felt that way, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And even the 3 sacks he ended up taking right against Kansas City last week, all 3 of them were his fault again. And like was sitting here trying to figure out like how I could talk about Tua and like how we could generate pressure against him. And I got sidetracked by how elite our offensive line truly is. Like we're the best in the league for time to pressure at 2.8 seconds. So there's no reason that Josh should be bailing out of the pocket, right? Sit in, clear out. There's probably a dude that's wide open at the check down. Find him, and then especially against this Miami Dolphins defense, because you are going to have all the time in the damn world. They have historically struggled against tight ends. So I think this is another Dalton Kincaid type game. Pepper that. Some yak with Shakir. It's really hard for me not to see this team be wildly efficient on both sides of the ball. It's hard for me not to like how I know this team can play. This is a Josh Allen with a baseball cap by the fourth quarter type game.
You hope.
You would hope offensively.
And so every year they play, by the way, it does feel like there's one game where the Dolphins give them their best go, and then it's just it's
the second game where it's a complete blowout.
They already got that, and that was really earlier in the season when
they were pretty healthy at that time.
Healthy, and it wasn't well known at that time that their season was completely over. They're 2-7 right now.
Like I seriously feel when they left that game, like we can't catch them again. Like I literally, that's how I felt. We gave it our best, and they did. They literally shortened the game. They tried long drives. They short passes. They did everything they could to extend that game, and they still lost.
Yeah, so they were in the red zone to tie it, right? And Tua just throws it to a wide open Terrell Bernard. You know,
so finally. So
by the way, he's second in the league for picks. And the funny thing is, like that narrative still exists. Like
is this
not
his
only
last game starting, Dan. That's a good question.
Oh, right before we see Quinn Ewers.
Yeah,
why not?
It's pretty clear that the relationship is deteriorating between him and Mike McDaniel. It's pretty clear based off of his press conferences. So what did he say last game? He was like, yeah, I would like him not to throw 10 picks like this game.
Dude,
that was a real quote from him.
Did you see what he said about the Bills?
No.
They score more points than us, that one?
It's unbelievable. So the Bills, and I just made a video about this because I'm genuinely curious. Like from my perspective, I can't get enough of the guy. Like it's must see. But if you're a Dolphins fan, watch it. Like if McDermott had lost to let's just roll reversal here, and they had lost to the Dolphins 7 consecutive times, and he came out with this response. I mean, what would the fan base say? He was asked about losing to the Bills 7 straight times, and Allen is 14-16 on these guys. And McDaniel says, quote, they've beaten us because they've scored more points than us and done the right football things longer than we have in those games that we lost. I mean, this guy, it is just every time he takes the podium, from my perspective, I can't get enough of it. But if you're a Dolphins fan,
you're living.
How you can watch this and just continue to support this football team right now?
No. You can't.
If the Bills are up by 17, I think someone goes in the game. I seriously think so. If it's close, fine. I think he's done.
He's quiet quit, I'm pretty sure. Like he's quiet quit on the Miami Dolphins organization. He's just clocking in.
Paycheck.
Yeah. He's just clocking in. Side question: if Joe Brady ends up getting a head coaching job next year, or if he goes to college for Penn State, I heard that.
Please,
would you be okay with Mike McDaniel as the new offensive coordinator?
Yes, because I think he's a good offensive coordinator. I do not think he's a good head coach. There is a big difference. You look at the head coaching position. In the same position, you are meant to lead the team. Like, you know, it's not necessarily about what you're putting out on the field schematically. A lot of it has to do with what you are doing in terms of leading a football team. Dan Campbell has the same job as Mike McDaniel does. On what planet does that make sense to anybody? That's a guy that you look at and you look at him, you hear him, and you watch him go to the podium and talk about his team, whether win or lose. That's a team you want to go into battle with. And when I hear Mike McDaniel say, well, they just score more points than us. How do you get up for a game when that's what you're walking into battle with? I mean, I really do think that matters. But when you're talking about an offensive coordinator, your job, sit in the booth and put the best play out on the field for my MVP quarterback. You don't have to take the podium. You don't have to lead men. I'd have absolutely no problem with that. The guy's a great coordinator. In many ways, you're watching Robert Saleh do this in San Francisco with a makeshift defense right now. I don't know if Robert Saleh, now granted it was the Jets. I don't think you wouldn't have been able to get Vince Lombardi himself to come back and resurrect that team. But if you're looking at Robert Saleh, is a great example in the division, doesn't work out, goes back to San Francisco where he earned the job in the first place. And I think he's done an extraordinary job with a team that has had more injuries than maybe anybody else. I think Mike McDaniel could do the same, and I would not mind that at all. You also factor in, Dan, too, one thing that would be notable here. This is a guy that's had to go against the Bills twice a year, every year, having to scheme up against them and figure out what they're doing offensively to try and combat it. I mean, who's got a better pulse on the Bills right now than maybe Mike McDaniel? I know it hasn't worked out for them, but he knows damn well what they're capable of. Imagine what he could do with that capability if he was in charge of it. I would not mind that at all.
You'd have to assume that they would prefer Stefanski or something, though, right? Like, you'd have to assume that's the way. If you think of Sean McDermott, like, I think that's
if Stefanski's fired, then him.
That's like the perfect match.
I will, Kevin. If that happened, I'd be all in on that. All in on that.
Perfect match.
Stefanski.
I'm sorry.
Yeah,
yeah. I think McDaniel would be interesting. Like, I don't know how
that. Cleveland gonna fire him? You think though?
Yeah. Come on.
I think if you lose to the Jets Sunday, I don't know how you come back from that.
They just gave up his play calling. He's done.
Yeah.
Like, that's it.
But that's another situation where I do sympathize with the head coach, much like I sympathize with Robert Saleh when he was fired from the Jets. Do I think Robert Saleh was a great head coach? No. But it's just like, what are you supposed to do? It's kind of like Brian Dable right now. You have anybody worth a damn on that offense hurt. You have a rookie quarterback outplaying anybody's expectations, and you have an expectation in New York to win because you're in New York. But when the guy took over the job, I just don't think he was ever put in a position to adequately succeed. And I feel like a lot of these guys have been put in that spot. The interesting thing, though, about McDaniel, that team was put in a position to succeed. You can't tell me that the Miami Dolphins didn't have the rosters to succeed. Hell, 2 years ago, they had a 3-game lead on these Bills going into December, and they completely blew it. So they had the talent, right? But that's the one interesting thing. I do feel bad sometimes, though, for these coaches like Saleh, Kevin Stefanski. I mean, Kevin Stefanski, the fact that you've been able to not completely lose your mind being at the helm of that organization, to me, is the most credible thing I could possibly find in a human being. I wouldn't have lasted 2 months coaching the Cleveland Browns the way things have gone recently and the moves that they've made. Exactly.
Oh God, man. He was set up to fail. I mean, he was set up
either way, I think he does what McDermott wants. He runs the ball at the top clip. He's one of the best run coordinators.
That's a good pull you made there. I would oh my God, would I love having Stefanski. No doubt.
I think McDaniel would be interesting. I still am in the camp that no matter what happens with the Bills, I don't think Brady's back. I think he goes somewhere, like, no matter where it is. So I think that's my leading contender based on like mesh and what makes the most sense.
And there's so many college jobs opening up, and they're high profile. It's not like you're going and taking over, Nevada. Yeah, you got LSU, you got Penn State, you got massive Florida. You have.
Isn't he the betting odds for Penn State? Isn't he like the number one?
I think he's either 1 or 2. Yeah. I'm a Penn State fan. That would stun me. That does not seem like Penn State. That's a move you can't make. You cannot hinge that program currently. You came into this year as a favorite to win the whole thing. I don't know if we've ever, fellas, seen a collapse like the Penn State Nittany Lions in 2025. It is an unprecedented collapse that I don't think we've ever seen before.
Drew Aller was tough.
He's walking it. Whoever's walking into that job, fellas, it has their work cut out for him. And I don't know if you're Penn State with the money you have to spend and the prestige you have within that franchise or within that organization. I don't know if you can hire a young first-time head coach like that for that position. It would stun me. But then again, though, it wouldn't stun me if Brady were to go take a head coaching job somewhere in college. Because even if Penn State's not fully sold on him, then you get into a bidding war where somebody's inevitably going to want to take him, right? Because he is a hot candidate. So I could see him going to college for sure.
It's that or the Cincinnati Bengals. And so reuniting with Joe Brady.
That's another one too, by the way, right?
Yeah.
That's another opening that's inevitable.
Yeah.
He leads the number one rushing offense. He's going to get credit for that. He's going to get credit for a lot of things, in my opinion. And it all depends on how the Bills wind up, but I think he gets a job. So.
Yeah. But so as far as Bills Dolphins, I am also of the agreement that Buffalo is going to win this game big. I think that this spells a 30-plus point game. Mm-hmm. I definitely see us beating the spread here. I think Tua will more than likely throw a couple of picks. it's funny too, because like that narrative of like he can't throw outside of the numbers, like he refuses to throw outside of the numbers. Like all of his interceptions have been in the middle of the field. Like virtually all of them have.
Which is
like,
crazy because when he does throw outside the numbers, that's picked off too. Whenever he does decide to do it.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm not sure. Maybe like it's an ego thing. He's like, oh, like my arm strength is going to be able to make this. All right. Like have no fear. And like he's just been getting destroyed. But yeah, dude, like I have the Bills like walking away with this one 33-10. And I will pick up where Kevin said, I could see Tua be benched. I could see Quinn Ewers by the third.
I mean, they played the Ravens on Thursday Night Football, and that looked like an FCS team taking on like a Division III team. They could barely get over midfield, and that's the Ravens defense, who's like what, fellas? Like that's a bottom third defense for the most part. Yeah. I mean, I know they're getting healthier, but like the Ravens didn't feel like that game wasn't even happening. Like it just felt like it was just like almost like a simulation. The Dolphins could not do anything.
An exhibition.
Yes, it really felt that way. And I think that right now the Bills defense certainly is better than that of the Ravens. And then Tua, by the way, in particular, his confidence just has to be shot. And you can tell at the podium where he's constantly getting defensive. And I think it's because his confidence is so shot that he's trying to like prove that he was worthy of getting the money that he did. And everybody knows that he is. And I think that you're seeing that on the field too. For a guy that's thrown picks year in and year out and is known to do so, he's doing it now more so than maybe ever. So it's just everything with Miami is currently on a downward skid. Everything. You have 33-10, by the way?
Yeah, I have 33-10. I think it's going to be the annual ass beating of the Miami Dolphins.
Yeah, so the Ravens won 28-6. So you're right on par. That's a 23-point margin, right? They won by 22. I mean, I'm with that. I think the Bills are over 30 in this one. I do. I see this one being like a 38-17 football game where I think the Bills take it. And I'm hoping that's the case because that Buccaneers game, I cannot believe that's a 1 p.m. window game. Man, that is going to be fun. And that's a huge ass game. So I'm hoping that the Bills, like you said, Dan, I do hope we get we do get a hat game from Josh Allen and James Cook in particular too. That would be awesome.
Yeah, most definitely. Rest that ankle up right after we have a significant lead. Kev, final score prediction.
Yeah, I've been leaning into it because I think there'll be some moments where it's McDaniel. He can score a little bit at times. Like I'm still going 34-20. That's like the number that has stuck out to me. I think that either they get a backdoor touchdown at the end. I mean, a lot of times it does happen. Like look at like that late touch on the Jets got. You got a late touchdown by even the Panthers. In that 40-3 game, like made it 40-9. So ultimately, like I've been leaning 34. I think the Bills are going to try to shorten the game. That's like they just want to get out of there. Like it's hot. Yeah. I think that they don't have the biggest ambitions to go on some tirade, but if that team turns the ball over, though, it gets bad quickly. If for some reason they don't turn it over a ton, I'm still going to lean in that 30-34 range. But if they start turning the ball over, then that's when you get to into your 40s for sure. But I think they're going to shorten this game. That they're literally going to short passes. I don't know if this is going to be your explosive game, but I'll say that. And the next thing we know, they're throwing deep to Curtis Samuel all game. Who knows?
All right. So the rivals, the Patriots, are taking on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Okay. And like you guys mentioned earlier, so this team is certainly suffering some injuries, but I really like what this Tampa Bay Buccaneers defense, how they match up with how the Patriots do well this year. Mm-hmm. Very good secondary. Very good secondary with Jamel Dean. Same thing with it's McCollum on the outside. Of course, you have the safety in which
Winfield Jr.
Have Winfield Jr. right on the outside.
You got Tyke Smith, who's good. You got Jacob Parrish, the rookie, in the nickel.
Yeah. So this team is deadly, and I think that this is probably one of the best secondaries that Drake May and this New England Patriots offense has faced all season long, because we all know that they really can't establish the run in the first place. They are one-dimensional. They have to throw the football. Sounds like Kayshon Boutte is questionable, so maybe he's going to be out there. Their only hope of being able to establish anything is by making Mike Vrabel put aside his hatred for Trevion Henderson for some reason and making him a part of the pass game.
It does look like Boutte and Stevenson are out, by the way.
So they're out?
Yeah.
Okay, so they're out. So his only hope would be to incorporate these running backs so within the pass game and Pop Douglas as well. As far as Diggs, I love that matchup with Dean. And so I love all of their other options. But then, of course, with the Patriots, defense has been good as well. So I think that this is going to be a really low-scoring defensive showcase for it. I hope the Buccaneers win. I really do.
Yeah.
I really do. It sucks like Godwin.
The division back would be nice.
Yeah.
And being able to kind of control you already actually do control your own destiny, believe it or not. And then the one we forgot, though, is they do play the healthy Ravens, hopefully, in a few weeks.
Yeah,
so
true.
I don't think they can keep up with the Ravens that we saw recently in week 1. I don't think so. I really don't.
And so maybe Flacco.
And the Ravens beat it, too, on top of it.
Yeah, true. And so maybe Flacco has something to say about it too when he goes into town.
I mean,
hang
Bengals,
50.
I mean, if you got to score with them,
it's terrible.
I'm sure you can, but you got to be able to put up 40. You can't. You got to be careful with that offense right now.
Yeah, you need to. But thoughts on this one? Where do you think this goes? And so we ride it with Todd Bowles to shut down this pass attack.
That's amazing. The Patriots have the second most efficient passing offense right now. I mean, who would have thought? It's pretty remarkable. This is a very even game to me, like extremely even, especially when you look at Bucky Irving being out for Tampa Bay and then their wide receivers being banged up. It's a very even game. The spread's 2.5. I think that's pretty accurate because it's in Tampa Bay. So you're basically just getting the home field advantage points there. Yeah, it really is. And I think that sounds about right. Now, the Patriots defense has been I don't know if they're being talked about enough in terms of how well they've done with Mike Vrabel taking over here, right? I mean, they were really good against just about everything, especially the run, though. So Tampa Bay, without Bucky Irving, can they get Rachaad White to establish a run game in this one? Because, we're looking at a game where I think that New England's going to want to throw the ball. The Tampa Bay D does pretty well against running the football. And I don't think that that's what this Patriots team is currently built on right now, even though you would think that maybe they would be the way that their defense has been playing in with Mike Vrabel. So this is very, very even to me, really. I think this comes down to the wire. It's anybody's football game. And it's just such an interesting one, too, because not only are there implications for Buffalo, but then, of course, the Bills play Tampa Bay the week after as well. So you got to have your eyes glued on this one. The Bills playing at 1. This is one of those ones where you got to get a second TV or get the multi-view up and keep your eye on this one, too, for a variety of factors. Something's telling me, fellas, that New England's going to win this football game, though. I don't know why. I just have a gut feeling. There really is no conviction behind it other than I just have a gut feeling. But Tampa Bay is coming off the bye and they're at home, so they do have a couple of advantages there. Big time rooting for Tampa. But if New England wins, look out because they're 8-2, fellas. If they win 8-2 after week 10, which, I mean, we thought they were going to take a step forward, but that is a leap forward if they're able to win this football game.
And so what you got on this, Kev?
Remind me of the 2019 Bills, right? Like ultimately, I think down the stretch there will be some, and the Bills lost a couple games down the stretch, including the one in against New England. I think it was even Sunday Night Football. I see that similarly. Like that Bills 12-14 game, I don't know. They might flex that. We'll see that game. I mean, that's a huge game. But they get the Jets twice with their totally crushed roster. They get the Giants. I mean, there's not a lot of losses there. It's the Bucks, Bills, Ravens. This could be a 5-loss team in New England. So if they beat Tampa, that's a 4-loss team. If they beat the Ravens, it's a 3-loss team. If they beat the Bills, they might win out. So ultimately, like that's the element, but they still have to stay on top of it. These are division games. Can Mike McDaniel get them at some point? Probably not, but you never know. That they played a close first game. Like for me, I got Tampa in this game. I think it's in Tampa. I think Baker's got a lot to play for. He's also playing for top of the league MVP style stuff. Like I like Baker Mayfield in this game. I got them winning, and I think Zebot's right with a closer scoring, low scoring game. I'm going to go with 23-20 that the Bucks beat the Patriots. That's what's been sticking out to me in this one.
23-20. I know that I'll have that game right on the screen while the Bills is up there on Sunday. It's going to be a good one.
But watch out for the Bengals. I really think that could be a bad matchup for the Patriots, in my opinion.
The Bengals, man, have old man Flacco. What? So when do they play the Bengals? So would that be a world where
2 weeks
with Burrow might be? Oh, okay, no, he's not going to be back by then.
They play Thursday night though, so a week from today. the Jets versus the Patriots 1 week from tonight.
Yeah, then the Bills play them a month from tomorrow. The Bengals, that is, in a 4:25 p.m. window.
After that, yeah.
Yep.
4:25 game. Well, folks, thank you so much for tuning in to another edition of the Bills Roundtable. All right, it's pretty clear that all three of us are confident and expecting that the Buffalo Bills win this game on Sunday and improve to 7-2, and we are all hoping that we could reclaim the division by the end of the week.
Do you guys have Denver, by the way? Or who do you want? Do you want Denver to continue to win, or do you want them to lose this tonight?
Oh, I'm rooting for them to win just because they already have a 2-game lead on Kansas City, and they still have to play them twice. So, I think
I'm rooting for Denver. How about you, Dan? What do you want? Do you want Denver to win or lose?
Yeah, I'll go with Denver too, man.
Put the pressure on the 1 seed then.
Also, I just think there's no possible way the Raiders beat them either. I just don't know how they score against that defense.
So they have a crazy point differential. And so it reminds me of the Chiefs last year with how like they're just like winning like these really ugly and like really close games. It's like
the offense isn't great
59.
for Denver. That's the thing.
Yeah, it's like plus 59 at 7-2, which is it's crazy. It's wild where it is. I don't think that the Raiders really have much of a shot. And so I know that like that defense looks a bit different when PS2 is not out there, but still it's hard for me to see Geno Smith.
They're like kind of like the Dolphins, though, guys. But they got the Chiefs next week. But they got the Commanders and then the Raiders again. That could be 9-3.
A 9-3 team.
Now, the 1 seed race is just absurd right now. I mean, it really is.
That team's 9-3 going into the Packers game.
And I'd take them to beat the Packers right now. I don't trust Green Bay at all. At all.
No, not at all.
No.
So then you got 10-3, then they got the Jags, Chiefs, Chargers. So they could lose all 3 of those conceivably, or they could win all 3.
And so would y'all trust the Colts still? Or so do you still trust the Colts?
Daniel Jones, a 1-read quarterback. They figured him out just like they will in New York. I do not.
Yep.
I do not trust Indianapolis. Will they win the division?
Maybe.
Probably.
Yeah.
I don't trust them as I would like to match up against them. I mean, I know our deficiencies are a little weak with Jonathan Taylor, but
that's the key. That's the key to me. That's why I trust Indianapolis. Do I trust them to get the 1 seed and go on a playoff run? Maybe not, but I definitely still trust that team's ability to be in the thick of things at the end. Yeah, I mean I mean, also I don't know where that came from Pittsburgh. The 6 turnovers getting after Jones because they've been awful defensively. So. Yeah, Indy's going to have to bounce back from that in order to have that faith reinstilled in them because much like the Bills, they had one of the worst, easiest schedules going up until this point.
The easiest.
Yeah, and that division's just not good on top of it. But I still trust them. I'm just dying to see what happens now with the addition of Sauce Gardner, right? I mean, because their defense was the 7th worst in terms of yards allowed per game with the pass. So if they can sure that up.
But he can't tackle, run right at him. Like we know Sauce well. And if they're calling him for penalties, I don't think he can. And then you're leveraging all your draft pick or your high draft premium assets.
The same amount of
compensation. Lattimore didn't work, in my opinion, for this reason.
More compensation for Sauce than Micah Parsons, which is something.
And they play the Falcons, the Chiefs, Texans, Jags, Saints, 49ers, Jags, Texans. They got some wins in there, but they could lose a lot of those games.
Yeah, they could, man. And Mr. One Reed himself. My buddy Richie is like still a very big Sam Darnold guy. Like he's still a
Sam's
very
been playing
big
well,
Sam.
man. Been playing
real
well.
Yeah, he has. But like he's also, from what I've seen, a one Reed kind of guy. So this year,
trouble when they start playing real teams like Tomlin and McDermott, who know. That's why McDermott does so well against Tua usually, is because they take that away and then you jump the route like they won the game on. Like Tua was efficient as possible against the Bills, and they still got him with what they perceived to be a 1 first read. And that's what's going to happen to the Colts. That's what happens to the Dolphins, and we'll see on the Seahawks. That's a good team.
Yeah. And so it helps with JSN's like, he's mostly always open. He's mostly always open.
Best receiver in football analytically.
I know. Killer. But all right, folks, thank you so much for tuning in. We appreciate you. Make sure you subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Turn on bell notifications. If you're watching the replay of this, certainly go on ahead and make sure you tap in on Monday for the live. Hopefully for a victory Monday. I'm feeling confident about it. See you guys.
Love it.
Peace.